Right. Unless ideas are massaged into reality, they evaporate. This is a lovely quote by Alan Fletcher, a great artist, and something I really, truly believe in. Some years ago, I was sitting in a room with a bunch of academics who I had a lot of respect for, and we were having this passionate conversation about how we're going to open our field of music information to the creative industries, to culture, to society. It was just hugely exciting. And I just went, okay, right, what we need to do is put artists and scientists and academia and industry all in one room. And then they just went, that will never happen. Like, we speak completely different languages. We can't talk to each other. And I thought, oh, that's a problem. Right, well, actually, it's true. They can't speak to each other, and there's a very good reason for it. And the researchers have to develop this really intricate language in order to be able to dive into the deep end and describe their model of the world. And industry operate in a very fast-paced environment, and they have to create a shorthand to communicate and to survive in it. I mean, they don't speak the same language, and it's absolutely true, but I thought, oh well, there's nothing I like more than the challenge. I thought, okay, you know what we do? We drop the jargon, and we'll get our hands dirty. And it worked. A bunch of brains came into the room from completely different backgrounds and different experiences and never worked together, they never did anything together. And they started building things together. And then the whole became more than the sum of its parts, and basically magic happened. And then people started bringing things that they had built, and people started teaching others to build, and then artists joined in, and then people were improvising on stage, and then people started building more, and there were people from the tech industries and large labels joined in, people from the creative agencies. We ended up being invited all over the world. I mean, at one point I realized that we had a bit of a movement. We ended up going to New Zealand, interacting with different cultures. We ended up being invited to Boston and Microsoft Research with MIT, Harvard, and Berkeley, and all these guys. These guys actually gathered together and decided to create a manifesto for this field, which then got rolled out online. And this was for the purpose of proving that there is more to this, that this had actually impact on everything we do. And it got undersigned by hundreds of people. We actually took a early copy of it, and we took it to the European Commission, and then we thought, okay, how are we going to support this space? I mean, it's amazing, all the stuff that's coming out. So we're going to help people seed ideas, build them, get together, create together, and then help them to build businesses. Others noticed, and the London Symphony Orchestra decided to host us in London, Factory hosted us in Berlin, and the Centre Pompidou hosted us in the center of Paris, a free event in the middle of Paris. And we are galvanizing the whole of Scandinavia here at Slipperiet in Umeå, end of May. Now, but that isn't enough. And I didn't think it was enough. Because if we're really going to change this space, we needed to change the underlying frameworks that support it. And that meant looking at the legal implications, looking at the technology guidelines, looking at the marketplace. And I started with legal. I thought, okay, right, what we needed was a system of design by attribution, a system that would allow us to give people our inventions to build upon in an accountable way. So what we then did was we got endorsement from CERN, and they said, okay, take our open hardware licenses and feel free to build upon them. We got some help from the UK Technology Strategy Board as well. And then we got some phenomenal award-winning lawyers, innovative lawyers on board, who were working with us for over 2 years on beer money because they really believed in this. Can you believe it? That can happen. And we created something called open product licenses. They were grounded in all the principles of open source and Creative Commons. And basically they were designed specifically for the 3D interconnected world. And then I had to look at the technology guidelines, because I was sitting in Judge Business School in Cambridge, UK, and we were discussing technology readiness levels that NASA had developed in the 1980s for the building of rocket ships. Now, I have a lot of time for the space program, because I think it's one of the things that galvanized the whole of humanity around this dream, and it was grounded in some of the best qualities that humanity can offer, which is basically exploration, discovery, curiosity, things that still drive us today. But the time that this was developed, technologies were just massively risky. They were so expensive. They were They took ages to deploy, and there were only a few end users. And what drives our economy today are not rocket ships. They are simple, creative ideas that can be deployed to early adopters quickly, and they can gather a huge amount of feedback, data, which warrants early investment and can get the economy moving. I mean, just look at SoundCloud, for instance. Now, for this, we needed new guidelines. And I happened to be consulting to the European Commission on new business models for this space. And we gathered together with my colleagues and some phenomenal people there. And we said, OK, how about market adoption readiness guidelines? So market adoption readiness levels would have to be calculated on several parameters. What is the level of risk? Is anybody going to die if we deploy this soon? How many early adopters can we get? How much data can we accumulate? How soon can we deploy this technology so we can get things moving? And the recommendation passed. And then I had to look at the market, because the market had completely changed already. I mean, it was driven by something called collective intelligence, which is one of the best things that's happened to us. Collective intelligence is more agile and has more potential because it can offer so much more quickly than anything personal accumulation could have given us in the past. And it had already provided us with crowdfunding platforms, which were enabled by technology. And this time, people, like huge amounts of people, were able to invest in their future by supporting ideas they really believed in. So I thought, this is amazing. This is half the market sorted. We know where the funding's coming from. Now, where's the making coming from? And I thought, OK, right, what we need. I mean, if we have a platform that can speak one language and we can all plug into it with the things we make, and they can all talk to each other, now we have something. What are Lego bricks for the 21st century? They're not just enabled anymore by the beauty of the precision of injection molding techniques that allow two bricks to stick together. There's more to it now. Every one of us can make an object by upcycling, recycling, 3D printing, any type of additive manufacturing, small scale, large scale, whatever. If each one of us makes an object and they can connect together through a common platform, we can all talk to each other. Now, we are all a generation of content creators. We know that because Google's done thorough statistics on this, and there's like 96% of us submit content. We upload videos, we write blogs. But this can turn our market into a market of crowd makers. So what about the dream, you ask? Well, the dream's still there, it just got cheaper. I don't know how many of you know, but Umeå now has a space program. In what is, well, we think it's the world's northernmost hackerspace. They have a deal with one of Google's Lunar X Prize teams, and they're building a kilo's worth of gear, which will be shipped to the moon next year. Now, all it takes is imagination, intelligence, and a bit of creative tinkering. What about technology readiness? Well, that's ready. That was cooked up over a weekend. There are people who never worked together before. They brought it on stage. They shone light on it. It wowed audiences. They're now building some more. This is how we innovate today. What about heavy industry? Let me tell you about heavy industry. There's this guy called Servando Barreiro. He's a great artist and technologist, and in fact, he just got a Intel challenge. He won an Intel challenge in the US. And he came to me and said, you know, I developed this controller for synthesizer, but it kept on slipping, and I couldn't get it to be at the right level unless I was looking at the numbers, and I thought, must be a better way of doing this. And he said, OK, you know, I'm going to go and 3D print a new thing. Never done it before, but I'll try. And he applied it, and it worked, and now he could control it without looking. And then he said, then I realized I just designed a synthesizer for the blind. But not only had he designed a synthesizer for the blind, he designed a controller which should be accessible by anybody operating heavy machinery who can't afford to look at the numbers. And at that moment, I want industry to be there. I want them to look at it and say, that's useful to us. Now, luckily, with colleagues from Philips, we are chairing the new Innovation Ecosystems group at the New European Alliance for Internet of Things Innovation. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's worth sticking with me on this one, because it gathers together all of industry and is pretty much representative of all of global industry. And in there, we want to get our hands dirty. We want to see what's possible. Because as my partner, Andrew Dubber, keeps reminding me, the future is not to be predicted, it's to be invented. And in fact, it's an old quote by Alan Kay, who is another genius inventor. But I actually want to contradict it for a minute. I actually see something around the corner which I think is incredibly important and we should keep an eye out for. It's something on the lines of, you know, the accidental discovery of Post-it notes or Twitter. Something that will fundamentally change the way that we communicate. And it has the ability to bridge language barriers and bring cultures closer together or reduce accessibility issues. It is grounded in this new space of interconnected objects and tangible user interfaces. Because it's based on gesture and signaling. Why is this important? Because we have always communicated through our tools. Look at children, they do it on a daily basis. They're brilliant at it. Now, we're not going to talk about it. We're going to get our hands dirty, and we're going to invent it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.